Hello, my name is Kevin and this is Wine Me Up episode 7. Wine me up! Welcome back to Wine Me Up episode 7. This week we'll be drinking the wine of Barberesco and talking about the area of Barberesco, of course. Now, Barberesco is in northeast Italy in Piemonte. The Piemonte region is got lots of wine regions there, lots of different areas, but the two main wine regions are Barberesco and Barolo. They're like brother and sister to each other. In fact, they call Barolo the king and Barberesco the queen. Now, Barberesco and Barolo both make the same type of wine, Nebbiolo 100%. They do, however, make slightly different wines, whereas a Barolo is more imposing, more weightier, more earthy type wine. A Barberesco is more elegant, more uplifted, more sort of linear of a wine. Now, the reasons for this is they're both made from Nebbiolo, as I've said, but there are slight difference in elevation. Barolo is higher than Barberesco, and Barberesco, along with its lower elevation and the fact it has a river running next to it called the Tanaro River, which takes the heat of the day and gives it back to the vines in the evening, acting as like a radiator warming up. This means that the grapes in Barberesco are ripen quicker than they do in Barolo, which means the tannin structures don't get to fully ripen out in them, which means that they give a more of an elegant type of wine than they do in Barolo. Now, of course, this is generally speaking. There's always exceptions to the rule, as there always is in wines. There are some areas that give you a more powerful type of Barberesco wine that is similar to Barolo. In fact, there are 4 regions in the Barberesco area. One is called Barberesco itself. Then you've got Neve, Trezo, and luckily the 4th area, they've recently changed the name to just be called Elba. Before it was called Rocca Sand something or other, I can never remember it. So now it's just called Elba, which is nice. Easier for me to remember. Neve has got soils in Neve are slightly darker than they are in the other areas, and they give you a little bit more of a muscular wine, more similar to Barolo wines. But this one is actually made in, well, they're both made in the Barberesco part, the Barberesco. Now, there are 2 different ways of making Barberesco and Barolo. I've talked about this before in episode 3, I think it was, where you can use large oak botti cast or French barrique or a mixture of both. The Produttori makes wines that are traditional in the large botti. Now, Nebbiolo as a grape is a very difficult grape to grow, and it only really successfully grows in the Piemonte. There's very, very little grown anywhere else in the world. There's a little bit in USA, a little bit in Australia, there's tiny bits in Mexico, places like that. But I would say, I mean, I don't know this for a fact, but I would say probably about 95% of all Nebbiolo wines is from Piemonte. It needs that exact sort of climate really to ripen properly in Piemonte, because it's a very difficult grape to grow. It also has a very long growing season. It buds early and ripens late. So it's got a very long season, so there's a lot of things that could go wrong in that length of season. You know, some grape varieties, they bud early and some bud late, and they ripen late, ripen early, etc. But Nebbiolo is both ends of the spectrum. And Nebbiolo is also a very site-sensitive grapes. All grapes do change slightly to where they are planted, you know, slightly different soil, slightly different elevation, whether there's a river next to it, the fog's coming, all these sort of variations, sort of mitigating variations, sort of give you a different type of wine. But some grape varieties are very site sensitive. Some like Riesling, for example, is very site sensitive. Pinot Noir is very site sensitive, etc. But Nebbiolo is also one of those as well. And this is very much reflected in the way that the Produttori makes their wine. Now, the Produttori del Barberesco is a cooperative. Now, this normally is not a great thing for when you want to make like really good quality wines. That's not to say you get bad wines necessarily from a cooperative, but normally it's kind of like your everyday type of wines really from that particular area. But the Produttori is totally different. This is probably the best cooperative in the world. It's got 54 different farmers, and they only make Nebbiolo, and they only make Langhe Nebbiolo, or they make Barberesco. It's very quality driven, and honestly, if you only ever try one Barberesco wine in your life, you should make it the standard Barberesco from the Produttori, the Barberesco. It's a quintessential Barberesco. It's how Barberesco should taste. Now the Produttori also makes single vineyard wines. It makes 9 different single vineyard wines. Produttori's got 116 hectares of vines in Barberesco, and it always makes a standard bottle of wine, which can come from the whole area of Barberesco, or it makes 9 of the single vineyard wines, which they make in a Reserve style, which is like 4 years of aging. They have 30 months of this in oak for the Reserve wine. The aging for the wines are, by the way, it's 2 years aging, minimum 9 months in oak for the standard wines, or it's 4 years aging and minimum 9 months for the Reserve wines. But like I said, there's 30 months in oak for this one. Yeah, so the really good thing about the fact that they make 9 different wines is that all 9 wines are made in exactly the same way. And because Nebbiolo is very site sensitive, when you're trying these different wines, whether it's from Rio Sode, Rabaià, Asili, Montefico, etc., etc., they've got, I mean, I think there's 15, 20 different crus there, but they have 9 of them that they make their wines on. So because it is site sensitive, you are literally tasting how Rio Sode tastes, or how Asili tastes, you know, rather than just tasting Nebbiolo. So it's really exciting. You know, if you ever want to compare 2 different wines, then this is how site sensitive a wine can be. Then buying the same vintage from Produttori in 2 of their different vineyards is really exciting. Honestly, it's 2 different wines. So here are some examples of the Barberesco I have in my wine cellar. And so I've got 3 of the single vineyards from the Produttori here. And I thought I'd show you this one as well. This is from the Asili vineyard as well. And it's made from the producer Caldabeo. I think that's how you pronounce it. Now the difference with this one is, whereas the Produttori are traditionally made in the Botti, this one is made in French barrique, so it kind of gives you a more sort of polished style of Barberesco, a little bit more oomph to the wine. So if you're not keen on that sort of elegance wine that you get in the Produttoris, that's really good to try that as well. And you know, even though that's 2021, you can actually drink that now already, and it will age quite well. Because as I've mentioned on previous videos, Nebbiolo does need a lot of time before you can drink them. You know, some of them, like this one, you can drink them younger and keep them for a long time, but others you do need to keep them for quite a long time. So, on to the wines themselves. We'll be tasting both of these wines. Now this one, I've bought a case of this years ago, and I've tried it so many times, and I've got lots of notation on it. So I won't actually be opening this, but I will be using those old notations to compare it about this one, which I will be drinking, just to see the difference between the standard 2013 and one of the crus, which is the Rio Sode. From the 9 crus, the Rio Sode should be the one that is most accessible right now, because 2013 is a vintage you should be really holding on to. In fact, it says here the drinking window for this is, written on the back, 2020 to 2045. So, you know, it's 2025, should be alright. So I'm really interested to taste them both, and I will be back with tasting notes on both of them. So here we are in the high-tech world of my wine cellar. This is the Vivino rating for the standard 2013 Barberesco. I can see it's got an average rating of 3.9. I've given it a 4, and the average price 270. I bought this wine for 179 kroner a bottle. Anyway, on to the rating. So yes, the rating for this last time I tasted was actually on my birthday, 21st of November 2020. Amazing, that's the last time. No, a long time ago. Anyway, I rated it pale ruby, cherry nose, white pepper, licorice, almonds, lush in the mouth with its red cherry flavours. It's got high acidity, high luxurious tannins. There's marzipan, sour cherry, some earth, and a cherry liqueur like on the finish. Really good starting point for a Barberesco. So, I'm giving it a 4. And for the Rio Sordo Reserve single vineyard wine, it's got an average rating on Vivino of 4.2, got an average price of 672 krona, which I don't know where they got that price from. It didn't cost me that, it cost me about 350. You can't always rely on those prices from Vivino, and I've rated it a 4. So for the single vineyard, the Rio Sordo, I'm giving it a 4. At first, very close, but in true Nebbiolo fashion, evolves in the glass. Pale ruby with an orange rim, it's because of the age. Cranberry, sour cherry, strawberry, black cherry. It's got forest floor, mushroom, camphor, that waxy sort of element, pine sort of element. It's got balsamic licorice, white pepper, rose petals with boiled cherry sweets. In the mouth, very lush, savoury, full-bodied, high acidity, high chalky tannins, lush red fruit flavours, cranberry, red cherry, black cherry, licorice, a nice minerality to the wine, lovely long, earthy, waxy finish, but definitely needs food and air, which it got, had a nice steak to it. And like I said, I opened it straight away and it was really disappointing at the beginning. I was like, oh no, but then I was like, hang on a minute, this is Nebbiolo, just wait. And of course it just evolves and evolves, and the last glass was just superb. Excellent wine. Yeah, like I said, giving it a 4. Brilliant wine. You can tell the it's got 30 months in oak, 28 days of maceration at a slightly higher temperature compared to the standard Barberesco, which got 24 days of macerations at 28 degrees. So they really did try to extract a bit more, and by doing that you extract more flavour, colour and tannins, but because it's got that extra 10 months in oak, it helps to calm it down a bit anyway. But you can tell it's much more of a serious wine, much more brooding wine. Would I buy these wines again? Well, absolutely, definitely. Superb wines. Anyway, that's it for this week. Come back next week where I'll be trying a wine from Spain. Either a Ribera del Duero, a Priorat or a Rioja. In fact, if anyone wants to make a comment on which one of those I should take, then I'll take that one. If not, I'll just choose one. Anyway, thanks for now. Goodbye.
Okay, I couldn't leave it there because I did say in that video that Piemonte was in the northeast of Italy, but it's not. It's in the northwest, of course. It's not the northeast, it's the northwest. That's Veneto. And I also said that 95% Nebbiolo comes from Piemonte. What I meant to say was comes from the northern part of Italy, in Piemonte, and next door in Lombardia, there's quite a lot as well.